Hello, everyone. This is Chala Dinkoy, CEO and founder of the Repositioning Expert, coming to you live with another Tuesday tea time with Chala in the middle of summer, drinking my protein. When it takes a long time, you know that it's at the bottom, and it's been kind of revived with hot water and a little bit of almond milk, and it's pretty disgusting. So I don't think I'll be finishing that today. So I have been running around. I was trying to get to New York last week. Didn't work out. It was closed because of they closed the city, folks. I mean, pretty much. There were thunderstorms, so I was grounded, couldn't go. But I was going to town to train some entrepreneurs in a pitch contest. And I'm going to be going to DC next week to do the same. So, being in this world of competition pitching, which I've trained before, is a little bit different than what I normally train entrepreneurs for, which is actually pitching in front of live buyers and buying teams. And that's what I used to do for 20 years when I worked in corporate. I used to sit there behind the desk and listen to pitches from vendors over and over and over. And it's not because I didn't want to buy from them, it's not because I didn't like them, it's because they often didn't really have much value to offer in terms of something different to unseat someone who was already doing the same job or a very similar job. Now, it comes once I get the chance to tell people about the difference. And some of the contestants are actually trying to do both. They are trying to pitch to actual corporate buyers that are in the room that they think could be their target, but they're also trying to win. So you see the title is only 3% of pitch winners get the prize, and that's a statistic. And so why do people still get into the competition? And for most small business owners and the ones that I'm talking to, which are women, it's not a comfortable space for them to be. A lot of them are not happy about doing it, but they do it for the exposure. And in my book, exposure in marketing is amazing. Of course, it's even better if you're doing it in front of the right audience, because like the violinist that they did the social experiment in the New York subway station, who usually gets millions, paid at concert halls, nobody even that he got like pennies thrown his way. If you're in front of the wrong audience, you're going to get pennies thrown your way, whereas if you're in front of the right audience, which is what the whole figuring out your strategy of positioning and differentiating and targeting, and then figuring out the target's pain is all about, then you're going to get the millions. So I'm all for getting your visibility. I'm all for pitching to, competitions and in front of corporations. That's amazing. But I would so much rather that you're pitching to actual buyers of your exact services, because you're in front of them through sticky marketing that worked to get their door open because you looked like you had something of value to offer and something different to offer. So let me get right into what are some of the differences and how to succeed with both. So the difference between buyers, what buyers care about, like corporate buyers who are going to buy your services and sign contracts with you, versus judges. The first thing that they look at for buyers is really the bottom line profitability. Is there any profit? Is there anything of value for them, which in corporate speak is money, to working with you? Whereas the judges, they don't really care about the profitability because they're not necessarily purchasing a service for their own company, but they more care about the clarity. If they understand, and believe me, I've heard a lot of pitches, and a lot of them I didn't even understand, so I had to clarify. And they're not, they're not going to sit there and try to draw out of you what the target is and to clarify what the problem is that you're solving. They're just going to nod politely and not vote for you. So you'll be lucky if somebody really, really wants to clarify your bad pitch as a judge. You'll be very lucky if that happens, but it often doesn't, because confused minds just say next. The one thing that both buyers of corporations and the judges care about is the unique twist, I find, because if you're so me too that you're saying the same things and you do the same things and you don't have a differentiator, then you're coming at them. First of all, you wouldn't even get an audience with the actual buyers because you couldn't even get in unless you knew someone on the inside or there was somebody doing you a favor. But even if you did get in, you couldn't close the sale because there was nothing of differentiated value that you're offering to unseat their current supplier. Now, why is this important? Why is a unique twist important with the judges? Because they hear a lot. They, in their business life, in marketing, through, all their lives or whatever they've done, they have seen, I guarantee, the same thing as what you're doing, unless it's a very, very, very unique twist. So, for example, one of the winners that I trained on was a service called Rent the Runway, which was a huge success story. And the big unique differentiator was that you could rent dresses and you could just rent them for one day, for a month, a week, or whatever. And then you would just return it. And it's affordable and it's practical. And so that's the unique twist that they were offering. Now, what do you do if you don't have a unique twist in your business? Is what I try to do is get the business owner to figure out a super niche, meaning to get a hook messaging into one facet of a very specific pain. So the example is, for example, one of the winners of the winner of the 2024 last year's contest for women business owners was a brand called Panic Panties. And these are small emergency size, like one size, little packs of underwear for women that you can get in like last minute sort of shopping areas, grocery stores. I guess I saw them at the airport. They sell them at pharmacies, but sort of like last minute. And of course, the biggest appeal is when you're out and about and you're in bars or restaurants. So there's, machines where you can get them. So they're called panic panties because when you're in a panic, when you're in a pinch, you need a replacement. That's what they're there for. So that was the twist, is that everybody knows and sells panties. I mean, Victoria's Secret, hello, everybody's got a brand of panties, but their special unique sauce is, the occasion and how it's been formatted, packaged, and positioned. So a unique twist is really, really important for both corporate buyers and for judges. The next thing that buyers care about is their pain. So they care about their specific problem that they're having in their company or their industry. Whereas what the judges care about is emotion. So they're not in it to buy anything for themselves or for their company. There's nothing in it for them. There's no, skin in the game for them. There's nothing at stake, but what they're looking for is emotion. In fact, I heard in the training room that one of the previous trainers, their biggest teaching was don't memorize, but emote and tell stories and be emotional about what you're saying. And I agree with that, except for the don't memorize part, because under pressure, my brain stops. And I've been on TV multiple times, and that was, what our coach taught us is you have to memorize every single line of your script. You have to know it cold, because when you're under tremendous pressure, you cannot ad lib. You will put a lot of and it just won't flow. And it has proved to be true because I've done 20, live appearances on national television. So that's what you need to talk about: emotion in your pitch when you're pitching to judges, something to do with, where you came, what your why for why you're doing this, how you went through the grind and what your pain was to get to this and what the pain is of the larger community that you're helping. Some form of emotion is definitely needed. Whereas the buyers really are less emotional, but they care about their pain and how you're helping their pain. Another thing that corporate buyers care about is whether you're an industry expert in their industry, because they don't want to play, they don't want to play Russian roulette. They don't want to take the risk. So, and it's not a risk for the judge who is just there and they've been asked to judge this, the competition. There's nothing in it for them. So there's nothing at risk. So they're not really your target. So they don't really care whether you're an industry expert or not. In fact, if you use too much jargon, which one of the contestants that I coached had, they won't even understand it to be able to really judge it. They're just gonna, what they don't understand, they're just gonna go next. So make sure that you don't use a lot of industry jargon, or you don't position yourself as such an expert that they don't understand what you do. So you have to bring it down to the layman's level for them, where you are kind of like explaining it to your next door neighbor or to a child. You have to um, contextualize it to an everyday person's world. So that's also a challenge for when you're doing like a multiple different industry audience kind of judging. And of course, corporate buyers want to know that you're an expert in their pain, and you do this through your multiple stories and case studies that you present to them, where you're showing exactly how you helped that pain in the past and what your results were, because they're going to be thinking, oh, these guys get us, these guys know our problem, and they can come in and quickly resolve this problem. Whereas on the other hand, what the competition judges want to know is if you are offering anything to social causes, or do you have any tie-in with social causes? Because this is more an emotional and more theatrical kind of presentation, where you have to entertain more than you have to sell to a very specific need. So those are some of the differences. In both cases, of course, you need to sound confident, but in the case of the presentation where you're presenting to judges, you have to sound like a confident, polished, straight. It has to flow very easily. There's no real conversation until after, where the question Q&A happens, and if they have any. But it's more a performance, so it's performative. And you need to be polished and practiced. Whereas on the other hand, sounding confident can be a consultative, which is something that we do with my clients. Is I teach them the 5 questions, where they ask a series of questions, which is consultative around the client's vision and mission, and what's standing in the way, and what is the cost of the consequence, and so on. And you can sound very confident just by virtue of using those questions, because they're high level and strategic questions. And if somebody high level and strategic is in front of you, who most corporate decision makers will be if they're in a buying position for your services, then you're able to speak their language at a high level, instead of being a note taker or an order taker. So the confidence looks very different in stage pitching versus corporate buyer pitching. And lastly, the corporate buyers want you to demonstrate the results in their industry and pain, which is something that I mentioned. But on the opposite side, in a competition, potential investors who are going to be judging the competition, or anybody who's judging you through the next round, through the rounds until the next round, they are going to want to demonstrate your past economic success, that you've had traction with this idea, that it's just not just baked up in your backyard yesterday, that it actually has following. It has you can drop some brand collaboration mentions, or any celebrities who are using it, and or any big companies that have already bought the services. And so they also want to see evidence of future success, so you can talk about what the market growth is like, what the market potential is like, and talk about you don't have to talk numbers, but you can talk percentages in terms of growth. And you need to ask for what you're going to do with that if you win the prize. So that shows them the breadth of kind of your planning, and how specific you're getting about your future plans of growth. So those are some of the differences in the 2 different pitching. I wanted to take you through them, because often a lot of people are confused about whether there's a difference and why they're there. A lot of the businesses that I've coached in the competition pitching are admitting that they're only there for the exposure and that they actually just want to get some clients from this. And so again, I reiterate that while your exact target is not in the room, so you have to do a completely different set of rules, I think, to be able to win to be able to stay in the game and get as many eyeballs as you can to the end of the game where you're, ascended to the grand prize. But I think there's way easier and better ways to market to your actual target than spending so much time and effort going through pitch after pitch after pitch after pitch. Now, there are brands and companies that is their biggest way that is their only tactic to get to visibility and to get to end users and so on. But like there's professional contest pitchers, right? They just do it over and over and over. And there's nothing to say that you can't go in year after year after year. You certainly get known in those circles depending on who you're targeting. But I personally think there's a way more direct and easier way. And if you figure out your marketing with the right messaging and the right hook that's sticky enough to get you in front of your target buyer, to get them to open the door, to give you consistent meetings over and over again, and you have a good handle on how to get close rates up to over 50%, then I think you have a much more solid plan for growth for your business than to continue to compete over and over and over again for these, money prizes, whether for visibility or for the prize, because only 3% win. So hopefully that didn't sound too negative on the competitions, because I'm still teaching businesses on how to win. And I do think it's good visibility, but there's easier ways to get clients if you have the right strategy and the right marketing strategy. All right, everyone. I will see you next week. Take care.